What's going on, you guys, and welcome to the first video of 2023. I'm excited to kick off the year with a new series I'm calling The Road to Hyrox North America Championship. This is my third time competing in Hyrox, and I'm excited to compete for my last time in the age group of 30 to 34, with hopes of hitting the podium for the first time. My first attempt in Chicago last year was at roughly 88 minutes. The second time was at 78 minutes over in Dallas a few months after. And coming into my third attempt here, I'm going to try to get to 68 minutes, which should get me to top 3 positions for the age group bracket. The competition is being held on February 11th at Navy Pier, so we're just under 6 weeks left of training. So I'm super stoked to bring you along for this journey throughout my training. Each week leading up to Hyrox, I'm going to be posting one video focused on a specific topic. For today's video, we're going to be focusing on my conditioning, so this is all of my running. Number 2 is going to be focused around strength. Number 3 is going to be the nutrition, how I fuel my body to keep up with the volume of training that I'm putting in. Week number 4 is going to be focused specifically on recovery to ensure that I'm able to continue the volume of training that I'm putting on my body. And then the final video number 5, it's going to be a day in the life video showing everything that I've done over the previous 4 weeks in a single day. So with all that said, let's jump into the conditioning. So when it comes to my conditioning, I put a huge emphasis on running. So as most of you know, I like to do ultramarathon trail races, obstacle course races with Spartan and Tough Mudder, and Hyrox is something I just picked up over the last year and a half. But one consistent thing that I've kept over the years is that every morning I have to do some type of conditioning. 6 out of 7 days, those are typically done with running, and on Sunday is a typical rest day. So let's kind of look at the breakdown of the 7 days throughout the week so you can see how I break up my running to ensure that I'm building a good base, but also hitting the specific anaerobic capacities that I need in order to compete at a high level. So we'll start off with Monday. That's typically an easy run. I like to call these my base runs. I'll do these on the road or the treadmill, and these can range anywhere between 5 to 7 miles. Now, when I say easy pace, if you're not using any kind of heart rate monitor or whoop strap, anything like that, a good way to tell if you're in the easy pace of running is the ability to carry a conversation the way I'm talking to you into this camera now. And that's what I'll do on a Monday morning for 5 to 7 miles. Now, Tuesday, we're going to bump things up into what I like to call power training. Now, living in Colorado, I have access to mountains and trails where there can be routes where it's straight up and straight down. If you don't have access to these mountains or trails, you can do these on a treadmill, bringing the incline all the way up to 15, doing intervals, or just power hiking up the treadmill for an extended period of time. So when I think of power, I think of just going straight up a mountain and then running back down. Typically, when I break up these types of runs, let's say we're doing an hour session, the time from going up to down is usually about a 2-to-1 ratio. So if it takes me 40 minutes to get up the mountain, we can expect to take about 20 minutes to get back down, just given that we have gravity working with us versus against us. And that's what I would consider a power day. Moving into Wednesday, we'll do the same thing that we did on Monday, which is a base run, treadmill or road, 5 to 7 miles, easy pace. Now moving into Thursday, we'll go into what I call speed days. And I'll typically do these on trails where it's rolling hills versus a steep climb like we did on Tuesday. So there'll be moments where you're working up, there's moments where you're working flat, and there's moments where you're working down. So it's this rolling hill for a consistent period of time. As we get closer to the end of the week, we now have Friday, which is the same thing that we did on Wednesday and Monday. Easy run, 5 to 7 miles on a road or treadmill. And to finish the week, like most runners, I like to finish the week with the long run. For this example that I'm showing you here, we're doing a long run plus power. So we're doing a bigger mountain that takes longer to climb. Tuesday's example was a 1-hour climb, 40 minutes up, 20 minutes down. This can be an extended period of time of 2, 3, 4 hours where we're spending 2 hours going up, 1 hour running down, and really emphasizing on getting that time on feet. So if we zoom out and really look at the week, we have 6 days of running. We go easy, hard, easy, hard, easy, hard. The example I'm showing you here is a week 1. In week 2, we'll switch out power and speed. So on Tuesday, we'll have speed, Thursday, we'll have power, and Saturday, we'll have speed. So this way, we're hitting our long run with some rolling hills versus a steep climb. This is going to ensure that I'm not getting too comfortable with one specific type of training and making sure that I'm doing my long runs with steep climbs and rolling hills. I also like the idea of changing up the hard days to make sure that I just don't get too comfortable with one specific route. So let's double click into these different types of runs so I can give you some more context of why they matter. Let's start with base running. So when it comes to base running, I always like to leverage my Garmin heart rate monitor. It's an easy way to track if you're within a specific zone. So for me, one of the things that I like to use is the math formula, which is 180 minus your age equals a specific number. So for me, it's 180 minus 34. That gets me 146. This tells me that for my easy running, I want to be at or below 146 BPMs for the duration of the run. I'm a big advocate for base running. I've been doing it for over 2 years now, and I've seen my pace go from 10:30, 10:45 pace at 146, 148 BPMs down to 9-minute pace at 146 BPMs. This tells me that I've created efficiency in my aerobic capacity to ensure that I'm able to run for a longer period of time at the same pace. On top of that, I've also noticed that my calorie expenditure has gone down the longer I've spent time in this base training. So that means that I don't have to be fueling as much as I used to when I first started base training. And again, the goal is to create the most efficient machine as possible to do more with less. Okay, so let's switch things off to power. So now we're going from the aerobic capacity and jumping into the anaerobic performance here, anaerobic capacity. Power training is super important because it helps you with your explosive and your power development as an athlete. But on top of that too, it's also helping you train for compromised running. So the ability to continue running when you're in a super fatigued state. So let's say, for example, we were climbing a mountain for 2 hours going up. We still have to run down. We do have gravity working with us, so the running does become easier, but that doesn't mean we need to stop paying attention because we are running down a mountain, which typically means technical running. So you have to be fully engaged. So you're running down this mountain, you have gravity pushing with you, your legs are completely fatigued. So not only is this really good from a performance standpoint and the ability to continue running in a fatigued state, but it's also super helpful from a mental aspect of being able to stay focused while things aren't at 100%. And for the third type of running, this is the speed. It is fun, but it is not my favorite type of running, but I know it's required. And I like to do these on rolling hills. So as you're going up a hill, we know that it's harder to run. We're using different fuel sources to get up that specific hill, and we'll either have a flat or a downhill to follow. I think these are super important because similar to what we talked about with power training, with these rolling hills and being able to continue running after a climb is another example of compromised running. Being able to keep things together while you're in a fatigue state. And again, this is going to build that anaerobic capacity very similar to the power training. Now you might be sitting here going, Omar, all this sounds great, but I don't have access to trails or mountains. What do I do? This is something you can easily do on a treadmill, whether it's taking the incline all the way up or just going between different incline levels to emulate those rolling hills. If you're unsure how to create your own types of workouts, I do have a link below this video for the Hybrid Method personal training app. There is a run program where I have 3 workouts a week. One is power, speed, and long. So you're able to do the same type of training that I do, just onto a treadmill. One of the things that I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk about that it took me a long time to realize was after I do the incline treadmill workouts, how do I flush out the legs the same way that I feel, I may be wrong on this, but this is the way that I feel on the downhill running. I feel like that downhill kind of flushes out all of that lactic acid from the hamstrings and the calves and soleus that I did working up. And what I love to do now when I can't run up a mountain and run down is I'll do an incline workout on the treadmill, and then I'll follow that up with an easy bike session to flush out the legs, but also start stimulating the thighs. So just a little pointer there if you are interested to check out the app or any types of workouts. I like to do bike after uphill workouts. Oh, and one more thing before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about volume. So for me on Hyrox, I like to keep things between 40 to 45 miles a week. Now that may seem like a lot for you or a little, but I found that that's a good spot for me to stay within here for the winter season before I get into more of the trail races. For Hyrox prep, I like to keep things between 40 and 45 miles. If that is way too much for you, I think you could get away with about 25 to 30 miles on a weekly basis. And I do emphasize this a lot because you do want to make an emphasis on running because over half of the race is spent running. So why not get the most efficient as you can in one category that you're going to be spending the most time in? I do rowing machines and ski ergs and stuff like that, but I'll talk a little bit more about how I incorporate those types of training into my strength section. So that's video number 2, which will come out next week. So there you have it. There's video 1 for 2023, the Road to Hyrox North America Championship, episode 1, conditioning. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comment section below. And as I mentioned before, if you're interested for any type of personal training, whether it is running, functional training, strength training, or hybrid training, the link to the Hybrid Method personal training app is below. Your first 7 days are free, and we'll see you in the next one.